And welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, where now we dive in across the north of the world of rugby league to bring you your Betfred Super League round 1-2 debrief. And I got to tell you, round one, wow, what a start to the Super League season we got already.
It was a beautiful start to the season. You could not ask for a better start to the season.
Well, we do start the season with last year's grand final rematch between St. Helens and the Catalan Dragons, and the Saints running out 28-8 victors over the Dragons.
Yeah, it wasn't all St. Helens' way, though.
No, it wasn't.
Catalans did put up a slight fight, but
Well, the first 20 minutes, it was all the Catalan Dragons.
it sure was. But then a lot of stuff happened. There had a lot of things happen in this match.
A lot of things happened. It kicked off in the first 15 seconds with Gil Dudson.
Yeah, straight to the sin bin, so yellow card straight away. Good way to start a new season, off in the bin.
Well, that's rugby league for you, and there was a lot of spice in that fixture. But once Catalan found a groove, well, I mean, they only scored one try, but they were in control for 20 minutes.
They were.
And like I said, Josh Drinkwater would run the show. Mitchell Pearce only has to play his game. And Drinkwater running the show, especially. First try to Fuad Yaha.
Yep. That was, I don't know, it was a good setup there, you could say, from
Drinkwater kicking over the top.
Yeah, I think that caught St. Helens by surprise slightly.
But that was the only punch Catalan really threw at St. Helens, because right after the 20th minute, when Tom Davies made that mistake, it was all St. Helens from that point. One mistake, and Saints made them pay for it.
Yes. Not
only did Mitchell Pearce have a quiet game that night, but he also was exposed in defense. Him and his right side combinations between Mike McMeekin, Dean Vare, and Tom Davies himself. 3 of the tries St. Helens scored, the 1 try to Lewis Dodd and the 2 tries to Tommy Makinson, both down Saints' left edge.
Yeah. Obviously the Saints will be, I don't know what I'm saying here. Catalan, sorry, will need to work on that area to tie up the defense so that doesn't happen again in future matches, or even heading into this week coming against
Wakefield.
So,
but yeah, discipline cost Catalan again. They didn't learn from the grand final loss. Simple errors, especially in good attacking position. They turned the ball over before they even had a chance to really put some pressure on the scoreboard.
They did.
They didn't earn the right whatsoever.
Well, no. And with Dudson going off early, probably didn't help the flow of the game that those Catalans might have had in plan.
And to make matters worse, Dylan Napa got sent from the field with 9 minutes to go.
In his Super League debut.
Which also didn't go as well. Now, considering the fact, he's now been suspended for the next month.
It was a nasty hit, though. So
nasty? Nasty doesn't even cover it. He really took Mark Percival's head off.
Fine, horrendous, you could say.
Just like Corbin Sims and just like Andrew McCulloch. Almost removed their heads clean off the shoulder.
Yes. So, not what Steve McNamara, for God's sake, McNamara was hoping for.
You're damn right that's what he wasn't hoping for. And then, to top it all off, the unfortunate injury to the shoulder of Julian Bousquet now means 3 middle forwards are now missing for the Catalan Dragons. In round 1.
Yeah, not good. not good at all. But when they come back, they might have a better run of injuries. It could be an injury-free run for the rest of the season after this little kick-up at the start. But it's not the way you want to start the campaign either when you're trying to go to make another grand final.
But I've got to say, Conrad Hurrell, in his first game for St. Helens, amongst all the debutants, he performed the best.
Yes.
That last-minute try from the intercept of Sam Tompkins, 1 try assist for the skipper James Roby, 137 running meters, 3 tackle breaks, and 5 offloads.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better debut for St. Helens than what Conrad Hurrell did.
One thing I will say, though, St. Helens need to work on, and this is a work in progress, but they need to work on their goal kicking.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, wasn't it?
Well, between Lewis Dodd and between Tommy Makinson, not a single goal, well, not many goals were actually landed.
I think Lewis Dodd got 1.
2, I think, actually.
2, yeah.
But, yeah, not the best start.
But is that just, I know they would have practiced in pre-season and that, but is that just trying a bit of rustiness from the putting off from the pre-season onto the field, bit of rustiness? I'm not quite sure.
It's hard to say, really.
But
he'd been going for a couple of months, so I suppose.
But they still got the win, St. Helens.
Yeah, a good dominant start for St. Helens. Couldn't really fault them. Defense was strong. They only conceded 1 try. So you couldn't really fault them for that.
No, it's pretty much almost smooth sailing from the grand final.
Now, speaking of grand final, we are talking about the 2019 runners-up, Salford Red Devils, on their first away trip to Castleford, upsetting the Tigers 26-16.
Yeah.
Walk us through this one.
Well, you could say it's a bit of an upset, being Paul Rowley's first Super League match as head coach, and he came out with a chocolates over Castleford, which you could say it was it wasn't tight scoring, but it was close. Only 10 points in it at the
half-time break, after Castleford opened the affairs for George Griffin.
Yes. But then at full-time, it was 10 points difference as well. So, no, you could say it was a good game there from both sides.
Well, Castleford were entering a new era, so to speak, under Lee Radford, following the departure of Darryl Powell, and were looking to make an impression. It's not really the best impression when Salford gets a round 1 win against most of the pundits, including us.
Well, you, not me, but yeah. No, but I could say, I don't know what happened to Castleford though. They just didn't seem to be themselves, if you know what I mean. But then that could be the new coach, and they're just getting used to putting his style of play out on the field than what they've done for pre-season. So they'll be working on that over the course of the season. You can't come into a new season with a new coach and go bang straight away. Like, get used to the playing style straight away. It will take time.
Well, we'll see about taking time, but I think that one of the key moments was the lead up to the try for Dion Cross with Joe Burgess going on a long-range break. Really, the Castleford right edge just didn't know what to do.
And I saw them kick off to restart the match, like after a Salford try scored by I don't know who scored it. I think it was off a try. But anyway, yeah, so the match was getting restarted, and off the kickoff, and Joe Burgess passes the cross, who goes in to score, really.
Going 100 meters from the kickoff, not pleasing anyone whatsoever.
No.
Wearing an orange and black shirt.
Yeah, I think Casper might just had a bit of a snooze. for that
Well, the
short period
Tigers
of time.
certainly hit the snooze on that run, and with that huge line break and the support play from Mark Sneed, who I think was as the point of difference for the Red Devils. 75 running meters, 1 try assist, 3 tackle breaks, and when the game's tries dried up after Darrell Alford scored his second, 7 from 7 goals converted. The last 6 points Salford scored, all penalties.
Yes. So we know who's going to be doing goal kicking this year. That's one box ticked.
I was very surprised because there's been a lot of selection surprises, to say the least. First of all, Jordan Turner starting off the bench for Castleford when I thought he would have been starting for sure.
Yeah, well, I thought that would have been the same thing as well, but there must be some theory behind Radford's thinking.
And it was the same story with St. Helens, going with Will Hopewati on the right wing, instead of, no, I don't know, probably playing him at fullback and then having Jack Wellesby on the flank. I suppose they wanted to bank him in at fullback, so not much you could really say about that.
No, not at all. But there has to be some crazy thing that they're thinking long term or even a short term, really.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. So Salford now really stunning the critics early, but the question is, can they back it up?
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough one. But whether or not, what happens next, we have to wait and see. Like we got Salford coming up against Toulouse, so yeah.
Well, we'll take a look at that when it comes time. Now, the real piece on Friday night's rugby league, the Wigan Warriors starting off their 2022 campaign with a strong 24-10 win over Hull KR. More interesting selection choices, this time coming from Matt Peat, starting Jai Field at fullback over Zach Hardacre and Cade Cust over Harry Smith.
Well, Jai Field starting at fullback, that worked wonders, did it not?
Well, you suppose you could say it worked wonders for them, but I was still very surprised over the fact that Hardacre was off the bench and Harry Smith nowhere to be seen.
That too, unless there was a late injury in the warm-up or something beforehand. I'm not quite sure what is to go there. But Matt Peat starting off his reign at Wigan pays off well.
It definitely paid off well. And I got to say, I was impressed with the Wigan Warriors defense. And every kick chase, the goal line dropouts they fought, they were there in numbers, and they just suffocated the whole KR attack, with Lachlan Coote not having any space to work with. And really, the fact they were dealing with a lackluster kicking game from Jordan Abdul, that they were able to contain KR in attack.
Yeah, Wigan need to continue this on throughout the season, though. This is what Wigan is known for, scoring more points in the opposition and keeping them down their own end of the field and putting pressure on it, the opposition.
I think this was a very good blueprint for Wigan to work with, because, of course, remember there was that period last year where they were really in the 2021 season, they were struggling to score tries, and they were struggling even more to defend against tries. Because remember, they got nilled at least a couple of times across the 2021 season. Nilled by Catalan, nilled by Leeds, and then they had big scorelines for them, both by Saints and by Warrington. So yes. I think this is a really good readjustment, especially with Sean Wayne's influence probably peeking through in attack and mainly defense rather than the attack. But speaking of the Wigan attack, bloody hell, I tell you what, Cade Custer's got some game.
He certainly does. If Manly hung on to him, he could have done the same over here, but he's gone over there for an opportunity, and he got that opportunity, and he did mighty well.
The try awarded to Jai Field, that was bloody risky as all hell, and I think Cuss saw this playbook from the Sea Eagles win over the Warriors back in round 5 last year. Kicking early off the scrum, because scrums are allowed back in the Betfred Super League, and then getting your speed men downfield as fast as you can and coming up with the rewards.
Yeah, when I saw that play, I thought, oh, that's a bit of a bad move. But what happened at the end? 4 points on the board. So
4 points
risk,
exactly. And
that was a risk versus reward moment right there.
And this is the reason why Kay Cust was my standout and for the Wigan Warriors. 56 running meters, 3 tries, 3 try assists, I should say, 3 tackle breaks, and 20 tackles in defense. 3 of the 5 tackles Wigan scored, it came off the boot of Kay Cust. The kicking game was absolutely spectacular. And I got to feel sorry for Sammy Wood out there on the whole KR right edge, where 3 of those 5 tries were scored where he was exposed in defense.
Yes.
And it's under the high ball. That just didn't go pretty for him.
Well, no, it didn't. He'll be obviously working on that as a personal thing heading into the next match.
It'll definitely have to be pretty fast.
Yes, sooner rather than later, because if that keeps happening, well, then whole KO will be going downhill pretty quick.
And going down faster than you can say a barbecue.
Yes.
Now, moving on, the big moment for Super League's bow on free-to-air television. The Leeds Rhinos playing the Warrington Wolves. Warrington coming away 22-20 victors in a pretty spiteful occasion.
It was a close match. And like I said, the first time on free-to-air TV on Channel 4. And mind you, they got an absolute cracker of a game.
It was an absolutely well, I wouldn't say it was outstanding, but it was a huge win for rugby league, to say the least. But I got to tell you, Darryl Powell really got the wire chancing their hand with the ball early, especially off the first try. I shifted early and deep inside their own half with that first try for Gareth Widdop, the result of an early shift.
I think it was like on tackle 3, and they were like 10, 20 meters in their own part of the field, like near their own goal try line. And then, like I said, that long range effort finished off by Widdop, that got them firing.
They skipped out to an early 10-point lead, but Leeds fought back. Real concerning part for me, James Bentley getting red carded, because this was really a tough day for Gareth Widdop, because he was getting clobbered left, right, and centre by anyone wearing a blue and amber shirt. But James Bentley's red carding, as well as, so you have the situation where Leeds go down to 12 men and then to a point to 11 men for the majority of the game. But you just can't go around taking people's heads off. This was the second red card of the year, of the round.
Oh,
and
the year
it
as well.
absolutely, it went against Leeds at the end of it all.
It did, but they still put up a really good fight, even though they were down 1 to 2 players. I reckon it was a mighty effort, though.
And there was a mighty effort from the Leeds Rhinos. They were able to kick on to the lead over the Wolves, but it just didn't pan out for them that way.
It didn't, no, but they did try all their might.
The fight back, the 2 tries to Josh Charnley, and then the match-winning try scored by Connor Wrench with a couple of minutes to go, and then the clutch kick from my standout player for the Warrington Wolves, Stephen Ratchford, 42 running meters, 2 try assists, 4 tackle breaks, 3 from 4 goals converted, and 2 offloads. Again, from that Warrington shift early.
Yeah, he did a magnificent performance there. And to do that clutch kick to put Warrington in that winning position would have been a lot of pressure on his shoulders. It could have easily gone into golden point.
Interesting comments made by John Wells not long after the full time in the Leeds Warrington game. He reckons that Richard Agar's men would have learned a lot more in defeat than Daryl Powell's side would have in victory. Do you agree with those comments?
Yes and no. I mean, you can learn from winning as well, like what works and what doesn't work. Don't get me wrong. But also with the losing side, you can say, right, we've tried this. We're going to try this. Try something else next time out and something like that. So that's how I say. So I say it's a 50-50 call.
Well, 50-50 indeed, but it's a long season. We don't know how things are going to pan out exactly. But you got to say for Warrington, they almost looked like they were enjoying themselves out there.
They were, which is good to see.
As Mark Wilson and Kyle Amor said in commentary for Channel 4, it looked like this Warrington side was very different. Well, actually, no, I think this is more John Wells and John Wilkins saying it, that Warrington looked different from the era of Steve Price. That the Daryl Powell era at the Wire could actually deliver them the grand final.
Could. Can't read too much into it being game one of the season, but at a good start, none, you know.
I suppose for Leeds fans, it would have been good to see Jack Walker back on the field after so long out of the game.
It would have been, and he would have got a mighty reception when he was out on the field. It's a shame that he didn't score a try because that would have been awful.
Well, his defense wasn't really up to it, but it was only game one of the season, so.
And it's the first time in a long time too, so he'll get there as the season progresses on.
Now, the other big game that went down, Toulouse Olympique versus the Huddersfield Giants, and Ian Watson's men walking away 42-14 victors over the new French team.
But Toulouse did get the opening 2 tries of the match.
Yep, that is true. Within the first 2 minutes, it's Matty Russell who scored the first try for the Lee Centurions, I think back in 2017. The first try for Toronto in 2020 has now scored the first try for Toulouse in Super League.
Well, there you go. There might be something going on there. No, but good on it. At least they got points on the board. I know they lost, which is disappointing. But they can go with their chins up, not down, because it's all new to them. It was going to be tough coming in and winning off your first game. And there's still a lot of room for improvement. Don't get me wrong, but they did well to get some points on the board.
I was actually very surprised with the Huddersfield Giants because Jermaine McGilvery, Ricky Latelli, and most surprising of all, Will Price did not travel to the south of France. They did not travel to Toulouse for whatever reason there is. And I found that rather surprising that Will Price was not named because I thought he would have been the shoo-in for sure in the Huddersfield lineup.
Yeah, he could have been starting fullback. Correct me if I'm wrong. The starting fullback, but yeah, that's unusual because he's very capable of what he showed last year. And
unless, of course, there were certain travel restrictions that, for whatever reason, that they couldn't travel to the south of France.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of too. Is something to do with travel. Well, unless they're not bringing all guns blazing for the first round, they might give them an extra week off, you could say, and playing in round 2.
Well, we'll see how that pans out, but you're right. Toulouse, for the first 20 minutes, like the Catalan Dragons, did get out to an early 10-0 lead over Huddersfield, but 7 errors and 10 penalties at the top flight level, that discipline's just not good enough.
No, it's not. You might have got away with that in Championship, but not in Super League.
Well, I mean, it's not good when you want to try and make a good impression, and Huddersfield made them pay. It was 6 tries in quick succession between the first half and the second, and the majority of the second half, really.
Yeah, you could say that. But you kind of could tell that Huddersfield were going to win it because it was new for Toulouse. But we didn't know how much Huddersfield were going to win by.
But all in all, I'd have to say for new skipper Luke Yates to score a try in his first game as Huddersfield captain, it was a good knock. The senior brothers both got on the board between Lewis and Innes, and Jake Wardle a double, as well as vice captain Chris McQueen and a very dominant, what shall we call all that? A 6-7 try, either 3 shellacking of Toulouse.
I wouldn't say shellacking, but it was a bit of what do you say? I'm going to say an easy victory for Huddersfield.
So you're calling it an easy victory?
Well, it wasn't super easy because Toulouse, but with the discipline that Toulouse had, wasn't good, and Huddersfield did make them pay. So it was an easier victory. I mean, it could get harder for Huddersfield as the season goes on.
Well, the standout man was the man filling in at fullback for Will Price, and that was, of course, new recruit Tui Lolohea. 170 running meters, 4 try assists, and 5 tackle breaks in a, well, I'd have to say a very good first showing for the Giants. And so it'll be very interesting to see if he can keep that form up when he probably moves the stand off, with Will Price being inserted back into the side.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Ian Watson does there when Will Price is back inside.
As well as Jermaine McGilvery and Ricky Latelli as well.
That too.
But Toulouse need to just have a bit of a reset, I think. Whether Mark Corella comes back into the side or whether he actually goes for good. Try and strengthen up your squad instead of having 25 men and having maybe something like 29 or 30. And discipline. I would say discipline would be the one thing to work on.
Yes, I have to agree with you there with the discipline fact. It wasn't up to scratch, you could say. And like I said, they're still learning it all, so give them time. But they can't take too long, otherwise
they'll fall behind very quickly.
Yes.
Finally, the last Super League match to look at, Hull FC once again opening their campaign with a win under Brett Hodgson, downing Wakefield Trinity 16 points to 12 at the Beat Ewell Support Stadium.
Look, I wasn't expecting this game to be as close as what it was, to be quite honest with you. I thought Hull FC would absolutely run away with that over Wakefield, but fair play to Wakefield, putting up tough opposition straight away.
There was a lot of talk that Jake Connor wouldn't have actually been fit for this game after he suffered a broken hand during the preseason, but there he was fit to play and having an impact as usual, coming up with a try assist, but also coming up with a red card.
Which, by the sounds of it, is controversial.
And he was sent off for it.
Maybe a sin bin might have been more worthy. I'm not quite sure.
So, Wakefield overlooked. Okay, and of course, as I said before, Wakefield would have been looking to build on what they did at the back end of last year, but would fall victim to actually having the pressure on this time. Despite drawing level at 6 it's all, thanks to the try from debutant Corey Hall. Hull jumped out to a comfortable lead in the second half, and they were relatively unchallenged for the majority of the second half.
Yeah, you could say that.
It wasn't until, with 10 minutes to go, Tom Johnston then swooped in to try and turn things back around to Wakefield's way, but just too late by the end of it all.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't hear this often. 3 debutants scoring a try.
McIntosh, Lovadua, and Luke Gale, who was, of course, my standout for the Black and Whites. 1 try, 15 running meters, 1 tackle break, 2 from 3 goals converted, and 12 tackles in defense. But really, the red card for that hit done by Jake Connor on it. They really got to keep his discipline in check.
They certainly do. And it's not what they were hoping to happen at the start of the season, like Dylan Napa at Catlands. I don't know how long he's missing for Jake Connor. I think it might be
1 round. He's only going to miss one game.
One game. So not as bad as Napa, but yeah, if that red card hadn't happened, it might have been a different story for the overall score and overall impact of the game, really.
Well, a good start for Brett Hodgson, but it's a question of how long can he keep it up?
That's a good question. We touched on the first 5 rounds for each team when we previewed each one, but coming up against St. Helens next is going to be a very, very tough ask.
Now, before we move on with round 2 of the Betfred Super League, got to take a look back at the championship over the weekend with the 3rd round done and gone. We got to talk about this. The London Broncos not doing well at the moment. They're sitting second to last on the championship table, down in 30, with an 0-3 record after going down to Whitehaven at the Cherry Records Stadium in London, 8-0.
That's not like the London Broncos at all.
It just hasn't been ideal for London because apparently 13 players were unavailable for the fixture.
Oh, that hurts big time.
So literally, we're talking about the best 17. London only had 17 players fit for this clash.
So whoever was in the starting 17 was the starting 17 overall.
The only 17 available, because I think as London head coach Jermaine Coleman has put it to the website, we had a thin squad for selection, but we can't use it as excuse if players returning from injury or COVID-19 isolation being thrown straight into games because of low numbers hit and there's the squad's cohesion. Well, I would say cohesion would be a big problem if you got players returning from isolation and that.
Well, yes, it would be a bit of a problem. But to go 0-3 at the start of the season, yeah, not good.
But they're 3 rounds in, 0-3. They're not in the best position. Fortunately, They only conceded 1 try against Whitehaven with Connor Holliday crossing 45 minutes in. So it's not as though London were absolutely terrible.
Well, no, let Whitehaven score a try 45 minutes into the match. That's pretty impressive to hold off for that long. And then to manage that defence after that try being scored. Yes, they gave away a penalty which Bishop took the goal for. But to hold off for the majority of the match without conceding a try besides that one on 45 minutes, that's a bloody good effort, being only 17 players fit and healthy.
It is. I'm just having another read of Coleman's comments here. He says there are small improvements defensively. He says he feels we were better with the ruck control. But when we're with the ball, we need to ensure we're playing in the right areas and offering more options, describing the performance on Sunday as not good enough, that they're not getting to the right parts of the field and not applying the pressure the way we should be doing moving forwards.
I think with the attack, they might be playing a bit conservative, to be quite honest with you. That's just my guess.
The fact of London's results in the first 3 rounds of the championship alone, the 8-0 loss to Whitehaven, coupled with a 34-12 shellacking at the hands of the Widnes Vikings, then a 28-0 loss at home to the Halifax Panthers, on top of the 8-0 loss to Whitehaven, it's piling up bars for London with only 2 tries scored in the opening 3 weeks. It's not looking good at all.
No, it's not. It's usually, well, not usually, but you often see 2 tries in one game, per game generally. So to have 2 tries in 3 games, that's not a very good record at all, and that needs to get fixed fast. Yes, they've got disruptions, but they should be able to overcome that. But as I said, not using that as an excuse.
Well, to overcome it, the next 2 weeks is not looking very ideal because next Saturday or Sunday, a morning over here, they have to travel north to face Featherstone at the Millennium Stadium, and then they'll be back at the capital on the 7th of March by Australian time to face the York City Knights.
Ooh, the Featherstone game's going to be absolutely tough for them.
It'll be very interesting to see how Jermaine Coleman takes this side forward and where they will end up afterwards.
Yes.
But that is your championship insight for this week, and it's another loss for the London Broncos.
Which are hoping to fix up very, very quickly indeed.
Now, moving on, we have round 2 of the Betfred Super League already. We've seen the table start to take shape, but albeit very slow indeed. And we look first up, Warrington Wolves up against the Castleford Tigers in our first telecast game of round 2. A couple of changes for Warrington, you'd have to say. First, Oliver Holmes will be suspended for 2 weeks now after failing to get his one-match ban overturned. Darryl Clark has been enforced to sit out under the concussion protocols in place by the RFL. But in the positive news, who's Warrington skipper Jack Hughes and strike weapon Toby King will be back in the line for Darryl Powell's side, though it might come at a cost to Connor Wrench, despite scoring the match-winning try.
Although Connor Wrench is in the 21-man squad, so what was it, 21-man squad?
Yep.
Yeah. He has been named in 21-man squad, so we have to wait and see come game day what Darryl Powell does there. As for Castleford, I don't think there's many changes at all.
Well, Danny Richardson, apparently, to unconfirmed reports, or maybe confirmed reports, was spotted in a neck brace after the 26-16 loss to Salford over the weekend. So Gareth O'Brien has been drafted in, potentially to replace him, depending how things pan out.
Well, put it this way, he has not been named in 21-man squad at all, Richardson.
So I would suggest that O'Brien will start at scrum half in the absence of Danny Richardson.
Yeah,
Greg Eden has also been drafted in, but considering that there is really no change in the Castleford backline, I don't see a way of him breaking in.
No, not at all. It's going to be a good contest, this match.
Well, this will be Darryl Powell's first match against his old club, and to have it so soon in the regular season, it'll be very interesting to watch, especially after the results last week.
Yes, coming off a loss for Castleford and a win for Warrington, a narrow victory.
Albeit a narrow victory, but this will be the first test at home to try and get the Warrington faithful on board early.
Yes. If Warrington put in the performance they did last week against Leeds, I think the home faithful will be quite happy with that. Well, but you never know what Castleford's going to throw up.
Castleford will need to look back at how Salford were able to pull their defence out of shape, especially with the Dion Cross try that saw Burgess go on a huge break with support runners on his outside down that right-hand channel. That week, that could be Toby King with Matty Ashton and Gareth Widdop down that side.
Could be.
And then you got to factor in that Jack Hughes will be back in the side, whether he's on the edge that Ollie Holmes is vacating for the short term or in the middle. Warrington will be looking to shift the ball either which way they can. Again.
Yeah.
So they've got to be ready to shut that down.
Will they, though, after the performance against Salford? Don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? Like we have mentioned numerous times already, it's too hard to get a read on who's going well at the season, at this stage of the season. Give it another week or two, then we might go see who's going well and who's not. So You never know. It's whatever Cuthbert side turns up. Really,
Well, we haven't seen in the Tigers yet really take charge of a match. They came close against Salford but couldn't finish it off. Now they're expected to go up against Warrington and their former coach. In my final prediction, I think Warrington will look again to shift the ball early, and I think this time they'll tighten up their defense and some discipline, especially against 13 men rather than 12 and 11. I'm going to say the Wire will go back to back on a 7-12 margin.
I'm going to go with the Wolves winning. Probably in a 1-6 margin. Castle will do a fight, but they'll be agonisingly short yet again.
Agonisingly short yet again, but still a Warrington victory.
Yes.
Now, what they're already dubbing as War of the Roses, Lancashire and Yorkshire. It's the Wigan Warriors hosting the Leeds Rhinos at the DW Stadium. Of course, for Leeds, there is no James Bentley after he got wiped out at the judiciary for up to 5 weeks from last record. Blake Austin will now be made available, all for Richard Agar's side in the heart, as whilst Brad Dwyer has also been handed a 1-match penalty notice.
So, not what Leeds are hoping for.
No. And as for Wigan, they haven't escaped either, with Ian Thornley being ruled out through injury as well. So I would expect Hardacre to come onto the flank, or Jake Bibby to shift to the wing, with Hardacre going to left centre, Kai Pearce-Paul keeping his place in the side. But this is really going to be an interesting test. The first time Austin and Caesar will combine this year.
Yes, it would be. Let's hope they go off to a good start. Because they've partnered up before, but not in Super League. So it'll be, hopefully they do well.
Leeds came agonisingly close to beating the Warrington Wolves at home in front of a good crowd up and the TV audience that they brought in. But I gotta say, Wigan's defence was first class.
It was. Yeah, I haven't seen that good defence performance by Wigan for a while.
I mean, what Leeds did well, they interchanging the passes amongst the forwards, because remember, Ted Urbano and Pryor both got Leeds into a good position to take charge in that game. But when it came to defence out wide, they couldn't handle Charnley and Wrench. This time, while the Wigan backline is not as strong as what it could be, with the loss of Ian Thornley and, of course, Kai Pearce-Paul finding his place in the side out on the right, I think this game could be a bit more interesting. But the kicking game of Cust, they'll need to try and get up on him to try and clamp things down.
Yeah, they shut him down early and take control of the match earlier on, then it should go Leeds' way. But like with Custer, you don't know what Wigan side you're going to get.
And it's important as well that they can't afford to let Jai Field get a sniff of open air.
Yes, where would you play?
Because if he gets a sniff of open air, he's going for it.
But could they put Hardacre at fullback and Field out wide, or keep Field at fullback for Hardacre?
I think they'll honestly keep Field at fullback. Bibby goes to the right wing and Hardacre goes to left centre to cover for the loss of Ian Thornley.
Yeah, that could work.
I think forwards, they'll probably stay exactly the same way as they were before, but whether Harry Smith or not, he gets named or not this time, it remains to be seen.
It does. We'll get the team lists for the squads out. Well, when would you say the squads will be announced, at least?
After we're done.
Yeah, more than likely. I shouldn't say more than likely. That probably will happen.
I think the big question is for Leeds, how well is Austin and Season going to go together if they are going to partner in the halves, because it could still be Caesar and Myler that partner in the halves, with Walker staying at full back. And I think the key for Wigan is get early ball to field and Cust.
Yes, that's
Regardless, I think Wigan will come away victors 1-6.
yeah. I'll be watching the halves of Caesar and Austin closely to see how well they go together. But I'd say Wigan will be too strong, especially if Cust and Field continue on from what they did last week. I'm going to say Wigan 7-12.
Well, Wigan Warriors, Cherry and White, 150 years to go 2-0 by next Tuesday. Now, moving across from Lancashire to East Yorkshire, we have Hull FC hosting the reigning champion St Helens in the second Channel 4 match telecast of the year. Really no injury concerns for St Helens at this stage. I think despite Mark Percival coming off after nearly having his head removed cleanly from his shoulders, it should be fine, I think. And I think there'll be no real changes to the Saints side that ran out 28-8 victors over Catalan.
I'd say it'll be all smooth sailing there for St Helens. There'll be pretty much no changes there. It'll be as she was round one. As
for Hull FC, they will be missing Jake Connor for this game, so what a time to lose him. And Andre Savelio will be missing for 2 matches as well. So the question is, who do Hull FC have to go straight in at fullback?
Good question.
At the moment, the only one I'm seeing is Darnell McIntosh. To slide him in at fullback and then maybe bring in someone on the flank, whether that be, or even Cameron Scott shifts out to the wing and Carlos Chumababe comes back in. And of course, we just got to see who gets that second row edge position in the forwards.
I can now bring Carlos back in and do what you just said for the second option for so bring Carlos in and move McIntosh to fullback.
It would be the only thing and they could realistically do. Or of course, bring Joe Cater in the start and then bring someone else in on the bench, and regardless of whether Connor Wynn or Cameron Scott up, or even the unorthodox approach, or probably the more realistic, Jamie Shaw starts at fullback.
That's a good
just for this week only.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. There's a heap of different, well, not a heap, but there's a few ways that Hull FC can get around this, and I'm sure they'll find a way.
The loss of Jake Connor will really hurt the Black and Whites.
Oh, yeah.
While they were strong against Wakefield, St. Helens are a lot stronger than they are.
Yes.
And I'm only seeing this game go one way, and it's going to go one way very, very ugly.
Yeah, if we're both thinking on the same page, which we probably will be.
If they don't contain Conrad Hurrell, who is now the secondary threat to Alex Walmsley, and if they get a good platform for Jack Wellsby going this time with no Connor to steal the limelight, this is going to be a St. Helens 13-plus victory.
Yeah. Losing Jake Connor to suspension from last week has come at a very, very bad time for policy. And St. Helens are pretty much the same team. We guess will be the same team from round one. So, yeah, St. Helens 13-plus. No other way to see it, really.
Now, moving on a little bit further to the north, the Huddersfield Giants will have their first home game of the season against the travelling Hull KR. And of course, as we mentioned, they've got 3 names to come back into the lineup up in the form of Will Price, Jermaine McGilvery, and Ricky Latelli. No suspension concerns or injury concerns for the Huddersfield Giants. Hull KR, meanwhile, will be missing the services of Albert Vete for the next 2 weeks due to a grade C dangerous contact charge.
It'll be good to see Will Price back in action, as well as Latelli and whoever else you mentioned.
McGilvery.
McGilvery, that's it. I don't know who they're going to replace or where they're going to slot in, but I'm sure they'll find a way in there somewhere.
Huddersfield tore the Toulouse Olympique, I should say, to shreds. They absolutely cleaned them up.
Yes.
Hull KR struggled in attack against the Wigan Warriors.
True.
So this raises a very critical question right here, right now. What can Hull KR now offer in attack against this Huddersfield side? And the question is, can the Giants back up what they did to the Olympique against Hull KR?
Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, Wigan did get over Hull KR, so Hull KR aren't off the best of starts, and Huddersfield are. So I am slightly leaning towards one team at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am leading in one way as well, and I don't think Tony Smith's going to like what he's going to see. I think Huddersfield will be way too strong again, and I think they'll put in a commanding performance in front of their home fans. And this time, I'm going to say Huddersfield win 7 points to 12 over Hull KR and go back to back.
I have to go with you there. Huddersfield looks like they're going to have the momentum behind them. And then with, like you said, the returning players, that's going to boost them even more. So I agree with Huddersfield 7 to 12.
Now we look towards the fifth game and the third Sky Sports game of the week. It's the Catalan Dragons at home for the first time against Wakefield Trinity, and there's a front rower shortage at Catalan. Dylan Napa going to be missing 4 weeks after a grade D strike with a shoulder. Gil Dudson to miss at least 3 weeks with a grade D strikes referred to as punching, as well as the injury to Julian Bousquet with his shoulder, so he'll be ruled out probably for up to a couple of months. So that means now Paul Seguia, Mikhail Gudemon, and Mathieu Koza will be called upon to provide service for Steve McNamara.
Well, let's hope none of those get injured. His match will also be even more screwed than what they already are.
Only concern for Wakefield at this point, Reece Lynn has been ruled out with a grade C dangerous contact charge and will miss the next 3 weeks. Whilst Jacob Miller was handed a grade A contact with the referee charge, but he will not serve any match time.
I'm still leaning towards one way though, even though.
Well, Catalan are now going to be a bit understrength in the forward pack, but I think they will learn the lessons that they were inflicted on against St. Helens. Whether or not Mason Lino is going to be drafted in for this match, I couldn't really say.
No, it's hard to say if he will or not. Although Wakefield will be going in as full strength as they possibly can, because they'll know that Catalans is under strength, which we haven't used Catalans at under strength much very often over the past year. Let's just hope the replacements in the pack don't get injured, because, like I said, they'll be screwed even further.
I think the Catalan Dragons are not a side that's going to take that smashing in round one. They probably didn't like that, and they know that. So I think they're going to look for a fight back this week.
Definitely,
they'll look back at the first 20 minutes and see what they did right, and then they will use the next hour to perfect what they got wrong. And I think they know it, that they didn't perform well, and I think they'll be looking to make amends. And it's right here. And unfortunately, Wakefield will become the victims of a claret and gold, old and white onslaught. I think the Catalan Dragons, despite the weaker power in the engine room, I still think they will have enough to flex a 7 to 12 victory over Wakefield.
Still a small margin though. I know they're under strength, but Wakefield is still going to get destroyed I'm going to say Catlins 13 plus.
Very audacious we're going here. And finally, of the French contingent, it's Salford hosting Toulouse Olympique at the AJ Bell Stadium. The first time in 4 years, Salford and Toulouse will meet at the AJ Bell Stadium. I really don't know how Toulouse are going to fare here on their first away trip to England.
Well, Salford is is an easier opponent than what Huddersfield is, based on last year's performances by Salford and Huddersfield. So it might, but as we said in the last matchup with Toulouse, they need to work on their discipline big time.
And it's a question of whether Toulouse have any play. Because think about it this way: if they lose 2 or 3 players, where are they going to find the players to replace them after that? That is something Sylvain Houle will really need to think about. Out if it comes to the point where he has to deal with suspensions and injury.
He's a smart guy, as we both know. He will find a way. If not, he would have to be slightly, the squad might have to be slightly undermanned for hopefully 1 week only.
Well, Salford were very good to start, and despite still not having a complete backline in place, they do have a very strong. I got to say, confidence at Salford is probably going good for them at the moment.
It's something that Salford lacked last year.
Yeah, I think they're feeling good after getting that win over a quality opposition like Castleford. I think they'll be looking to kick on here. And I think if you're playing with confidence, you can do a lot of things. I think Salford will win this game 7-12. I think expect an improved performance from Toulouse, but I think Mark Sneed's influence over the game will show in this. And I think Brodie Croft might have a chance, but I don't think Croft will really implement. Well, when I say implement, I mean stamp his mark on this game.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I thought it was going to be. Sneed takes control of the kicking and Brodie Croft just runs the ball when needed to. And I'll say the same is going to happen again in this match.
So your final margin?
Salford to go back to back, build on their confidence that they did in round 1. Go 7-12.
7-12. All right. So we both agree Salford to get the win at the AJ Bell against the New Boys.
Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, it is full time from us. If you like either this part or the NRL preview this week, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the Sideline Chat. Don't forget to click that bell for notifications, and so you never miss a week of rugby league action. Don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sideline Chat at Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter, it is Sideline Chat RL. Don't forget to use our hashtags Sideline Chat RL and SideChat YT. Hope you enjoyed the action and from round 2 of the Betfred Super League. And coming up in the NRL previews, can the Rabbitohs back up their grand final heroics? What does the season have in store for St. George Illawarra? How far north and south can the Roosters and the Tigers go on the NRL ladder? Find out next week. Along with Mark Hendry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and you have been listening to the Sideline Chat podcast. We'll see you next week.
See you, folks.